Welcome, everybody. This is the Amner Martinez podcast. I'm here with Kenji, and we're back for our we're calling it season 3 because like the video thing,
right?
So this time we have. Okay, let me ask you this: would you work for $1 an hour?
I guess if there was, if all the other jobs were paying 90 cents, yeah.
Then you take that out, okay? But did you know that like there's jobs that exist that are $1 an hour?
Yeah, I didn't know that happened here.
Yeah,
It happens here.
yes, in this country.
Oh, okay.
So the March 25th starts the Farm Worker Awareness Week, and while I was talking to our next guest, I ran into the fact that mostly in the southern border, the Mexico-U.S. border, migrants cross the border under a visa. I think it's H2A Visa. I could be wrong, but it sounds like that, H2A. And they get paid basically an hour, $1 an hour to work 12 hours, sun up, sundown. So anyways.
$1 an hour?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
To, pick all the fruits, all the vegetables that we eat. So my next guest is Dr. Daniel Zinnel. He's he works for Proteus Inc. He's the president of Proteus Inc. here in Iowa, and it's a great organization that helps farm workers here in Iowa. There's other chapters, I guess, in California. Started out of California. He explains the history of Proteus, but it's a really important organization right now that is helping farm workers. And I think meatpacking plant workers fall under the farm worker.
Right.
But it just kind of blew my mind, though.
What, the whole dollar thing?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not surprised. Really, I'm not surprised.
Yeah, it's kind of crazy.
Yeah, that, I mean, there's, everything around here is profit-based.
Mm-hmm.
So I can imagine if you're paying your employees only $1,
mm-hmm.
somebody's profiting.
Yeah.
There's some people out there that, they're gambling on whatever farm or companies or public companies, things like that. They're gonna make money that they didn't work for.
Right.
So that's what the whole thing is about. That's what keeping low wages is all about. Is so that people that don't work for that money can get more money.
More money, yeah. So
it's like gambling, but it's another word for it. They call it investing.
Right.
But it's gambling.
Yeah,
it's making money, not really earning it. You just kind of bet on things. And
farm workers are at the very bottom of the totem pole. Does that make sense? As far as getting the best value for your time. But they are the most important. I mean, we eat this stuff.
Right. No, they actually work hard. I mean, we couldn't do their job.
No.
We're not hard workers like these people are.
Yeah.
We just, we learn a few things and then we go and do other things that make us feel better about ourselves. But yeah, these people are actually earning a living.
Right.
Working hard for.
So we talked about that because there's in their website, ProteusInc.net. You go and then there's this mini, like a 5-minute little documentary from the Washington Post that talks. They interview farm workers and it just talks about how farmers struggle staffing this type of work. They put out job ads and they just can't handle it.
Who wants to work like that? I mean, who wants to work that hard?
Right, nobody does.
I mean, we live in a culture that, that says work smart, not hard. Or I don't know.
That's the thing. Yeah, work hard, work smart, not hard.
Yeah, I think First time I heard it, I was like, okay, cool, because just moving here from Mexico, I heard that, I was like, that doesn't seem right. Work smart, not hard. I don't know. I mean, sure, you should be smart about things, but I think earning a living, like being smart, it just sounds like toying with the system. It sounds like gaming the system.
Yeah.
Sounds like cheating. Like
it's
you're
like
not really
shortcuts.
working. Like taking a shortcut.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not an expert on anything, but
neither am I.
It sounds like cheating to me. It sounds like not being honestly earning a living.
Right.
So like gaming.
So construction workers, farm workers, meat packing.
I mean, yeah, you can innovate. You can find ways to make your work, a lot easier. I mean, you don't want to work hard just for working hard. That's stupid.
Yeah.
But I don't know. Just the first time I heard that phrase, to me was
so just by that like thought process, they at least deserve a little more respect, right? They deserve.
I think
more
that they
pay.
should get a living wage. They should get. I mean, if they're the ones that put the food on our table, I think that they should.
Yeah.
I don't think that we should be broken up into classes like this. I think we are. And I think that farm workers, usually get the shorter end.
Right.
All the time.
Yeah.
Like people that work hard, like janitors and I don't know, people that like you said, construction workers. I mean, people work hard and they don't get all the benefits. They're kind of just like, they get the shaft. It's
kind of backwards, right? It's upside down.
Yeah, and then people that don't work, there's people that literally do nothing but gamble, sitting on their computer,
invest,
and then they get a quarterly check.
Yeah.
That's all they do. They don't work.
Yeah.
So and then they say, oh well, I'm smart. By cheating. I mean, that's to me
that's how you see it. Yeah.
To me, it's like the same thing. Like if you say, oh, okay, well, I worked really hard. I was at the casino till 4 a.m. To me, that's the same shit.
Yeah.
I don't see a difference, really.
Yeah. So that's why we spoke with Daniel to kind of help in any way that we can. Bring awareness. I got educated. I mean, I didn't know this. You know what I mean?
Right.
So
But again, I'm not surprised.
Right. Yeah.
That's how it is.
I'm not surprised about the treatment. So another thing. So there's migrant camps here in Iowa.
I didn't know that.
Yeah. It's pretty interesting conversation. So I don't want to say it all because I want people to listen to it. But they do great work. And I think it's important, and it's gonna be farm workers awareness weekend. So why not?
Nice.
Yeah. So what else you got? What else?
Nothing. Just in the interest of full disclosure, it is overexposed. Your image.
What the?
I didn't.
There was a lot of light.
Yeah, you looked like you died, and then you had your Zoom call from heaven. So expect that. It was not my doing. I wasn't around to make things right.
Well, thank you for Dr. Daniel Zinnel. He also joined the Amplified Network. He's doing the daily dose of growth and joy, and we talked a little bit about that too. So, all right, let's get to it.
All right.
To all the farmers out there, shout out, right?
Yeah, shout out to all the farmers.
Yeah. Here we go. Welcome. Thank you for joining me.
Thanks for having me.
Daniel, how do you pronounce your last name?
Zinnel.
Daniel Zinnel. Dr. Daniel.
That's right. That's right.
So you work for Proteus. So before I get into this, I want people to hear this because the work that you guys do is even myself as an immigrant, I'm very ignorant about almost a little bit. So, but I'm gonna play this real quick. I hope it works.
Okay.
To raise visas to work, we literally have to offer those jobs and to Americans first. We advertise, we publish them in newspapers, and we literally have very minimal response. And anyone who shows up, we automatically have to hire them and we have to work them. And we're happy to. But I mean, for everyone that shows up, we'll advertise 15 jobs and we'll have 3 or 4 people show up. And then within a week, they'll quit. And then we have nothing. And then we apply for H2A visas, and that's when everyone, comes from overseas to work for us. And that's literally the lifeblood of this farm and multiple farms across the United States. Because literally without this program, Americans don't eat.
So that's a video from the Washington Post that is on your website on Proteus Inc.net.
That's right.
So tell us about Proteus. What is it? When did it start?
Sure. Well, Proteus is a multi-state nonprofit that is in Iowa, Nebraska, and Indiana. We were created back in 1979 by Proteus of California. So there's still a Proteus in California that does similar type of work as we do. But in 1983, we broke off and became our own separate nonprofit. But since 1979, in Iowa, we have been implementing the National Farm Worker Jobs Program. It's gone through various names over the years, but in addition to implementing that program in Iowa, we also operate it in Nebraska and Indiana. But that specific program really gears toward helping lower income farm workers or anyone in their family get access to resources in order to upskill, achieve a credential, and ultimately find greater self-sufficiency for themselves and their families. So we oftentimes see clients that are making 100% of poverty or below, have multiple layers of barriers to achieve greater, higher employment salaries. And so we really focus on pairing them up with training programs where they can get the skills they need. We push them to get community college certifications, degrees, or diplomas, because those are shorter term and oftentimes can help them get a better paying job. And so we can pay for some tuition. We can pay for things tuition or financially doesn't pay for. We also pay them a stipend if they are in school. We pay them $6 an hour for every hour they spend in class to help them with basic living expenses. And then we can also step in and help them overcome any barrier or challenge that they might encounter as they are working toward their goal, whether that be gas, groceries, they're behind on rent, utilities, childcare, car repairs. We can either help connect them to the resources to pay for those things, or oftentimes we can pay for them from Proteus as well. So that's a program we have in Iowa, Nebraska, and Indiana. And then across the 3 states, we also provide health and safety training in specific topics like heat stroke and heat stress prevention, pesticide exposure. And this last summer, we did a lot around COVID-19 prevention and mitigation. And last year, I think we trained 7,000 farm workers across the 3 states. And this is really life-saving information, especially this past year. But even looking at heat stroke and heat stress prevention, we unfortunately lost a migrant farm worker who was only in his 20s in Indiana this past summer due to heat stroke. And so this is really important information that we are literally going into the fields to provide them. Our bilingual staff will go to the fields before their shift starts, provide the education so that they have that and can better look out for each other. And then in Iowa, we have some additional programming. We are an agricultural health program and a federally qualified health center, which means we can provide healthcare to agricultural workers or anyone in their household. Our model is probably the most unique healthcare delivery model you will find. We have 3 brick and mortar clinics where patients can access care: Des Moines, Fort Dodge, and Iowa City. But most of our healthcare is mobile, where we go to where farm workers are located, set up temporary clinics on site at their employer's location, or we'll partner with a church or another community-based organization and really provide access to healthcare. We do primary care, can connect them to additional healthcare resources they might need in order to help them improve their health outcomes. And then this past year, we have done additional things related to COVID. We did testing in Iowa. We did a ton around follow-up care related to COVID-19. And then we also launched, in partnership with El Éxito and American Friends Services Committee, which we later then pulled in a few other organizations to create the Iowa Immigrant Community Support Fund, where we worked collaboratively to get individuals to apply through an application who were in need of financial assistance, and specifically immigrant families who were in need of financial assistance. And through February, our partnership, we were able to distribute over $1.1 million to immigrant families in Iowa, which reached over 1,000 households and impacted over 4,000 individuals.
So you guys, you guys do amazing work. These are the quintessential essential workers.
That's right.
Besides the medical field, the farm worker is the essential work. You know, like the video said, this is a farmer. I think he's somewhere in California, I think. He's saying, he's explaining how these jobs, not everybody wants them. And so without, they're talking especially about this H2A visa, which maybe we'll get into it a little bit. But last time when we first met, we had a Zoom call, and you told me about migrant workers that come from other countries. And that's been happening for decades. There was some railroad that was being worked on here, some mining. Tell us a little bit about the modern day kind of migrant worker that not a lot of people it's kind of out of their realm of reality, right?
Yeah, I think most people are so amazed that we have so many migrant farm workers that come and work in our state. And they've been doing that for decades, as you mentioned. But I think most people don't realize they are here because they are working sunrise to sunset 7 days a week. And they don't have the opportunity to really be engaged with the community across their broader community. And so I think that's why most people don't even realize that there are so many workers that unfortunately are living in literally the shadows because they are working sunrise to sunset. But we're seeing an increase in migrants come to our state because of what that individual said in the video you played. It's harder and harder for our employers to find domestic workers. And we hear the same stories. Domestic workers sometimes show up and leave the same day that they start because it is really hard work. And I grew up on a farm. It's really labor intensive work that takes a strong work ethic to really fulfill the duties of that job. And there's another video you should check out that really talks about how farm work is really skilled labor, even though I think in general, people think that it's not. It truly is. It takes specific skills in order to work in the fields and accomplish the things that they're doing. But I think this past year especially has allowed people to maybe have more gratitude for their food, which then they think about how did we get our food? So like at every meal, I think it's really important for all of us to pause and reflect upon what it took to get this meal onto our plate that we were about to eat. And all of us are touched by farm workers, whether we're thinking about it or not. And so we're really just trying to convey that message, share the stories to get people to care about these essential workers who are helping to feed us each and every day.
So when you say they work from sunset to sundown, they literally they stay at a what is their living arrangements?
It depends. So some will stay in residential homes, some will rent apartments, some stay in extended hotel stays. But there are a couple larger migrant camps where they live literally on site. One turned an old long-term care facility into apartment living, and another has a variety of big buildings, but one is just kind of wild to think about. Is if you can picture a giant warehouse and then bunk beds lined where hundreds of workers stay there for a specific time period. And so it really varies depending on the employer, depending on the location, depending on the work. But we do have migrant camps in the state of Iowa. And I think that always surprises folks when I talk about it as well.
And they come through this H2A visa.
Some do.
About.
So in Iowa, we have a lot of domestic migrants that come from the Valley, southern Texas, who have come here year after year to work in the fields. But then we have also seen an increase in H2A visa workers. So what that individual said in the video is true, where it's harder and harder to find workers. So we've actually seen a significant increase in the number of H2A visa workers coming to work in Iowa. Last year, we had over 4,000 come, which was a huge increase even from the year or 5 years before. But these are temporary workers that oftentimes are coming from Mexico, and it's the responsibility of the employer to provide transportation to Iowa, provide housing and food while they are here, and then transport them back. This year, we're also getting some new workers, I believe, from South Africa. So it's not solely just Mexico where we get H2A workers that come to work in Iowa. We do see other countries that are involved in the H2A program.
What's the number? I mean, if you don't have it, that's okay. But what's the number of migrants that are like currently there?
There's not really great hard data. My estimation is between 7,000 to 10,000 probably.
Wow. And just to emphasize on, because a lot of the rhetoric is you're stealing our jobs, right? Mm-hmm. I moved to this state because of a meatpacking plant town, Perry, Iowa. My dad still works at Tyson. I worked in it for almost 2 years. So all my family, literally, it's like a rite of passage.
Yeah.
So I know firsthand the type of work that it is. And now as a recruiter, headhunter, I do have a couple of small processing plants. And it is a known fact that this job takes a particular type of worker. Mm-hmm. And, the doors are open, the help wanted signs are there. The applicants are interviewed, but when it comes down to doing the job, they don't want it. They don't want the job. So then, somebody has to do the job. I was talking to Joe Henry, the political director of LULAC, and we were just talking about the impact of immigrants. Like this state, the whole country really needs immigrants. So I just wanted to highlight that a little bit because, this myth of stealing jobs has to kind of go away. There's jobs that some people are not willing to take.
Yeah, I think that's completely spot on. And yes, we need to talk about that. The way I frame it is more focused on the benefits we get from these individuals too. So like spinning it on its head, but I do think it's important to combat those myths that people are stealing jobs. It's not the case. We have a surplus of jobs that employers cannot fill. And so we definitely need more workers to come into our state, which is really, I think, sad to see some of the legislation that has been introduced this last year mm-hmm. that I think is really creating a bad PR for our state to attract new people to want to come and work in our state.
Right. Employers are struggling to find labor.
Yeah.
And, I talk to a lot of human resource directors, business owners. That's my job on a daily basis. And then there's a census of like, yes, there needs to be something that, because there's around 11 million, maybe the number's a little bit higher, undocumented immigrants living in the United States. And imagine if you can give them some kind of authorization to be employed, impact that it would have on the economy. So what other programs does Proteus have that are, helping the farm workers?
Well, I'll talk about one that we are in the middle of launching, where we're looking at piloting our healthcare delivery model within a couple smaller meat processing facilities in the near future, hopefully this year.
Mm-hmm.
So I think we learned a lot from COVID, and to even go back to just a year ago this month, we saw meat processing workers become disproportionately impacted by COVID-19. And so we at Proteus wanted to be as proactive as possible in thinking through a strategy to work with employers to help equip them with the best practices we knew at the time, to think through mitigation strategies, and to really try to create the safest workplace environment for farm workers as they were arriving starting in the spring and into the summer. And we really created a model that worked well with our employers, with our farm workers. Thankfully, we had some additional funding to focus on COVID-19 testing as well as the follow-up care. And so we were able to test close to 3,000 farm workers in 2020. If they tested positive, we were able to put them up into a hotel so that they could safely isolate in air conditioning, which really was an important piece to helping them recover. We brought them hot meals every day if they needed that. We checked in daily. And I think our follow-up care was truly life-saving because these are workers who are hardworking. They're accustomed to working through illness and pain. And it's hard sometimes for us to pull out their symptoms.
Mm-hmm.
So it really took that daily check-in for us to develop stronger rapport with them in order for them to disclose. And we had to make the tough call a couple of times to transport them to the hospital. Knock on wood, thankfully, we were able to show lower positivity rates. Only a few were hospitalized. And I think our biggest success, which is kind of weird to say this out loud, but we had 0 deaths in 2020. And so clearly we did something right. And we want to be able to take that type of model and address the need that we also saw in meat processing facilities. So we're going to start small this year with a couple locations. We pulled in the University of Iowa to be our research and evaluation partner so that we can capture data, kind of create a model that hopefully works, and then be able to replicate that in other locations in the future. Yeah. So that's one thing that we're really excited about.
And I think that's important because the word is that there's going to be another virus at some point, another breakout. There's some, and then that just kind of goes to show how, there's a lot of naysayers about the virus and anti-vaxxers, and I don't want to get into that, but there are some industries like the farm worker, the meat packing plant worker, that their vicinity of working is really close.
Yeah.
So it's, if you have a job and your employer's not doing everything possible to keep you safe, then is that really a good employer? So how are you perceived by employers, by the way, when you approach them? Like, what's the reception?
Yeah, it's definitely, I think, a delicate balance that we have to play. The employers that we've worked with historically have appreciated us because we're providing a service to their employees, and essentially we're helping keep their workforce healthy. So bottom line, we're helping them save money because we're allowing their workers to continue to work and not miss as many days maybe for being sick. And so I do think the employers really appreciate the work that we do. And we have some really great employers in the state of Iowa that we work very closely with. So from our standpoint, we're adding benefit to the employer. There are times when we see things that we need to make referrals or direct the workers to call maybe an additional partner of ours if we're seeing things that just don't add up. Just because there's various ways of how these workers can be employed. So they could be employed directly by the employer, or a lot of times the employer will contract with a crew leader who will then hire a crew. And so there's varying degrees of employments going on here. And we always offer resources and make referrals, especially when we see things out in the field. But we're not the ones that are necessarily doing the legality side of the work. We make those referrals. We truly focus on our bread and butter, and try to maintain the relationships with everybody. Because if we had a bad relationship, then those workers would miss out on our services. So we're trying to toe that line of maintaining them as best we can.
What about the farm worker? How do they receive you? How do they perceive you as an organization?
I think our more than 40 years of providing services to farm workers has really allowed us to develop trust. And it's amazing in one location, especially where we have served 3 generations of these workers. So these families of migrants have come back to Iowa for 3 generations. And I think that's just an amazing story and testament to the rapport we do have with the workers. They're the most grateful people I've ever worked with in my life. They're always so appreciative of all of the services we provide. And it's all of our staff are always feel great about themselves when providing services, because you always get a thank you, you always get appreciation. And then sometimes we get food or the shirt off their backs, literally, from the workers, because they truly want to reciprocate what we are giving to them.
And it's amazing because and this video that's on your website that I put the link on, and make sure, I hope everybody goes and checks it out. This is like in California, Southern California. So these are migrants that are crossing from Mexico to California, I think on a daily basis. But they get paid, says they're 22 to 23 pesos per hour, which is equivalent to $1 an hour. That's not okay, right? Like that, there's something wrong there. Have you seen anything, just to kind of keep it local? Is anything here that you've seen that you say there needs to be a flag raised here?
From time to time, we do see, maybe not that extreme, but we have seen things like that happen where we've had to make the referrals to Wage and Hour or to Iowa Legal Aid or to another partner to investigate the situation more. But it comes up enough where it definitely is a challenge. I mean, it's essentially labor trafficking, what you're describing. And when we think of trafficking, we think of the sexy one, which is sex trafficking, but there is much more that entails trafficking, including labor trafficking. So unfortunately, it does come up probably more often than we even realize, because it takes a lot for workers to speak up, because they're living in fear, especially if maybe they're undocumented and that person is holding something over them. And so they're less likely to speak up in that situation. But it does happen, unfortunately, from time to time.
Do you think some farm workers feel like they're kind of isolated, alone, not a whole lot of resources for them?
Definitely that can happen. But I will say, from the workers, we did kind of a mini study last summer on behavioral health needs of farm workers. And it was really interesting to me to hear about how some travel with families, so that helps. But then if they're not traveling with family, they truly do create their own family while they are here with each other. And so that was, I think, interesting to hear, which I think speaks to just humanity in general. We need human interaction. We need people who are our friends, maybe our chosen family. And so they truly are creating that while they are here.
Yeah, there's you cannot emphasize enough the spirit of like a good worker. And I'm kind of proud about that part of my heritage and the people that I come from. Their hard work is just, you can't put enough emphasis on how, this is people that are in the fields, bent over, getting their hands beat up, and getting all the fruits and vegetables that we have in the meatpacking plants, working with knives, doing the same motion thousands and thousands of times. There's something to the spirit. It's really inspiring to me. You know, sometimes I'm doing walkthroughs in the meat packing plants that my clients at my clients, and then there's just this feeling of like I kind of soak it in almost, you know, their work ethic, and I'm like, man, they're working, you know, they're really working hard. So and they do it with a smile on their face because they know they're putting food, you know, in their on their family's table, and they're paying their bills. And so I would invite anybody to that wants to try this job out. There's plenty of jobs out there. So, but you going a little bit more on your career, and you're a big part of the business community here in Des Moines. I think the first time I saw you was you were kind of doing a testimonial on the is it the Greater Des Moines Institute?
Yep.
Tell me a little bit about that. Tell me a little bit about that. You went through that program, right?
I did. Well, I believe in personal growth, and becoming a lifelong learning. I would recommend that to anybody, but I participated in the Greater Des Moines Leadership Institute's community leadership program, which has allowed me to meet so many amazing community leaders, including our very own Shaima Ali. That's how I met Shaima, and many other folks that have been a huge asset to my life and have brought me so much joy since knowing them only for a very short time. But it's a 9-month program really focused on understanding the city of Des Moines, the Greater Des Moines regions, challenges that we're going through, and really focused on helping to really develop the leadership within our future leaders and current leaders. So I really enjoyed that program. I learned a lot, and I'm still involved in it. I'm on the alumni committee. I previously served on the curriculum committee, but I believe in leadership development as a whole. And
is that where the idea, dose of growth and joy, came about? Because okay, let me kind of set it up. So you're joining our Amplified network or roster, so which is really excited. So you coming up here in the next couple of weeks, you'll release your first episode about growth and joy. Is that where the idea kind of started brewing? Tell me a little bit about where it came from.
Well, I'll back up a little. So from the community leadership program, I recognized that we needed more representation in positions of power. And so when I started at One Iowa as executive director, I kind of brought this brainchild of mine to create an LGBTQ leadership institute to really help develop LGBTQ leaders to potentially serve in greater positions of privilege and power. And we really focused the first few years on getting LGBTQ folks who are Black, Indigenous people of color, trans and non-binary folks, and women to be part of this, because even within the LGBTQ community, if you look at intersectionality, there's a lot of people that look like me who are also gay men in positions of power, but we need to really create that pipeline so that there's more broader representation of LGBTQ folks in these positions of power. So that's one thing that I'm really proud of, that kind of was sparked by the Greater Des Moines Leadership Institute. And since then, I've just continued to focus on my own personal growth and journey. But Daily Dose of Growth and Joy actually started because of the pandemic, of all things. So a year ago yesterday, I posted my first Daily Dose of Joy. But I have 5 leadership values. I have 5 personal leadership values that I try to live out loud every day. But I recognize because of the pandemic that my one value, which was joy, I needed to kind of amplify it even more. Notice how I brought that brand in more. Amplify it just because I see myself going down a darker path because of the pandemic. So I started posting just a daily dose of joy, something that brought me joy that day, as a way to kind of express gratitude. There's a lot of research on people who show gratitude every day are more likely to experience joy. And so I started this daily dose of joy, sharing something that brought me joy for that day. And it kind of turned into this thing where I started doing it literally every day.
Mm-hmm.
And it was interesting to kind of reflect upon some of like what brought me joy, what were the things that really stood out. But many philosophers believe that joy is the most vulnerable emotion. And others also say that you cannot have joy without suffering, without adversity, because that makes joy even greater. So I think in my personal struggles, my personal adversity and sufferings, because I have gone through those, I think I have greater appreciation for the good things in my life, because it does truly help ground yourself in recognizing what's important to you. And so I started this daily dose of joy. It kind of picked up where people started following along, and some even started their own daily dose of joy and replicated this. And so it was kind of amazing to see this kind of network blend into the broader community. And so just a couple of months ago, I launched a business called Growth and Joy because of the way this has transpired this past year, and incorporating my expertise in leadership development. And so this business really is focused on helping individuals or companies work on personal and professional growth and joy. And so part of this is launching this weekly video series called Daily Dose of Growth and Joy, where I will interview community leaders and talk about our lives, talk about suffering, but also focus on joy. So I'm excited to continue the momentum I've built, and excited to see what's to come.
You're gonna have to invite me on.
I will.
Well, Daniel, it's amazing how when you put yourself out there a little bit, you start to run into amazing people. And this is just another proof of, to me, or affirmation, or, that this projects that I've been kind of getting involved in, the people I've been running into people, and somehow somebody invited me to the that Institute Leadership. So I was in the audience when you were talking, and then just a few weeks later we started connecting, and then now we're working together, and that's kind of like the entire purpose of a lot of what I'm doing. And I think that sounds to me like that's kind of what you do, is just connect with good people and see what good work they're doing, and just kind of keep growing and creating awesome relationships. So, but besides that, the great work that you do is just still, I still processing it. So I'm going to invite everybody to please go to proteusinc.net so they can see the programs. How can people help? They can donate.
We'll take your money.
What ways? In what ways can just a person that's like, oh my God, I didn't know this was happening. So what's the easiest way to kind of help you?
Well, I would say follow us on all of our social media platforms. So Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. And then also sign up for our newsletter. We share a lot of things where people can reshare, can participate in things that we have going on. For example, the end of March is National Farm Worker Awareness Week. It's a national kind of campaign that we participate in just to really raise awareness about farm workers and what they're going through. We're doing a couple things specifically to our organization that week. We're doing a long sleeve shirt campaign. So we'll be taking donations. Folks can donate long sleeve shirts and drop them off at our locations. And then we're also going to be releasing 5 videos over 5 days. One is going to be interviewing staff. 3 of them are interviewing farm workers from the 3 states. And then the last one, I'm going to interview one of our board members who was she was a migrant child herself, but She was the first Latina elected to the state legislature in Indiana, and she's on our board.
Wow.
So I'll be interviewing her.
That's an amazing story, right?
Yeah, she's great. We love her. And then we're also doing a recurring donor campaign. We want to get 50 recurring donors committed that week. So there'll be various things like that throughout the year where folks can be engaged and involved. But I would just encourage folks to follow us on social media and sign up for our newsletter, because hopefully once the pandemic slows down, we'll start to open up things a bit more, and we'll be able to pull in more volunteers in the future too.
And also your website for Dose of Growth and Joy is live. People can come visit on the website.
Yep. www.growthandjoy.com.
Growthandjoy.com.
Yep.
I can't believe you found that handle. It wasn't taken yet.
It wasn't.
I was when I was looking for website names. It's always like it's taken. That's cool. Yeah. That's why a lot of people have to put DSM on a lot of their, like mine is Infinite Resource DSM, because there's infinite resources like all over the place.
Yeah.
But thank you again. I really appreciate your time. I look forward to working together with you. I know that we're going to be working a lot together from now on. So, but I truly do, I mean it, appreciate the work that you're doing. This is like your daily job. So, I had no idea, which is crazy. But ProteusInc.net. Thank you again, Dr. Daniel
Zinnel.
All right. Thank you very much.
Thanks for having me.
All right. There you have it. What do you think? You listened to the whole thing?
Yeah, I did. I guess I'm not surprised about the whole thing.
Yeah.
Because people love profits.
Yeah.
So that's America. And that's what it is. And there's, people are totally fine with it.
Yeah. I mean, we are in a way, because
we're not doing anything about it.
Yeah,
we're not doing anything about it. So no need to what do they call that? Virtue signal. So I'm not trying to
we're not trying to do
I'm not trying to signal that I'm virtuous at all. I'm just saying that people don't give a shit.
Yeah,
people don't care, man.
Yeah. And so maybe that's why these farm worker awareness week is to do that, is to just kind of bring a little light to it, and just at the very least
I think that farmers is like one of the professions that you can actually praise without knowing them.
Right. So yeah, when you're sitting down on the table, have you seen those memes that says "Thank you, Jesus"?
Thank you, Jesus.
He's like, "You're welcome." Yeah. Yes. Thank Jesus.
Yeah. Thank Jesus for the tomatoes and whatever else.
Yeah. All right. So we're gonna keep doing this. Thank you everybody for listening. Thank you to Good Vibes Movement for letting us use their space. And thank you to Dr. Daniel Zinnel from ProteusInc.net. Go check him out and visit the website amplifydsm.com for more podcasters. Thank you for listening.